The pads were on, but the team looked off as they returned to practice after a day off, day 5 of training camp here at UC Health Training Center. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Phil Milani alongside Nick Ferguson and Aric DiLalla. Guys, we'll talk about the football team here in just a second, but KJ Hamler returned to practice after missing the first week here at training camp, went to the podium after practice and had this to say about his emotional journey returning from injury last year.
It was just so much stuff I was dealing with, being piled up, on top of each other. At one point, just dealing with the ACL. And a little bit of more things, family situations, my love of my life passed, my grandmother. So that was the toughest thing. And, the devil was on my back for a while. And, I wish I would have never did it by myself. I wish I would have asked for help because, at some point, it was at one point in my life, and I'm just be honest with y'all because I'm more vulnerable and, more confident in myself about saying it. But at one point, I didn't want to be here. Like, I didn't want to be in this world. It was one point I just didn't want to be on earth no more, because I lost my granny and that really hurt me. So just God gave me the strength just to get out that hole, and He knew I was strong enough to get through. I didn't feel like I was at the time, and just getting out that hole is very hard and very tough.
What was your reaction to him just being pretty vulnerable up there at the podium?
Well, for me, we really never see players be this vulnerable to the media. Typically, we kind of keep that close to the vest, but I've talked to KJ about the situation because I am quite familiar with it. I had a knee surgery. I was here by myself. There was no one else around. And in that same time period, we lost Darren Williams. So I had all that emotion overtaking me. Now, I didn't think about, the idea of taking my life, but it was a low point in my career because I just felt as though I was alone and I didn't have anyone to talk to. And in these situations, and I'm glad that KJ Hamler did what he did because maybe it might encourage other guys who are going through the situation to maybe be a little more outspoken about things that they're going through.
Kudos to KJ for saying all that. It can't be easy to go up there and share that with people because, you're not just giving a statement. People are then following with, questions that are designed to get these intimate answers. So for him to get up there and share all that, I thought was really powerful. But I think it's a good reminder, too, for the media, for fans. In the fantasy football era, I think it's very easy to look at players as just stats. And when KJ gets hurt last year, you don't think about him again until he comes back, and now you're wondering, okay, when is he going to get back on the field? Is he going to be ready for Seattle? You think about them only as kind of their contribution to the game. It's a good reminder that these are people. The football players all around the league, they're going through stuff. The coaches go through stuff, personnel. I think that it's easy sometimes for fans, for media to lose sight of that. And what a great reminder from KJ Hamler that these are people first and foremost.
Hopefully a lot of people in this media market and the fans realize that these are people, they're athletes. You cheer for them, you root for them, but they go through some of the same issues and have some of the same problems that you have.
And listen, you can, people boo players when they're not playing well. You can do that. That's like part of a fan's right, I think. But I think just remember, especially social media, things that people tweet at players, at coaches, I think you got to remember that they have stuff going on behind what they're doing on the field.
Yeah. Well, now let's talk about the football team a little bit. The offensive side of the ball did not look sharp here on this Monday. Russell Wilson, in the middle of practice, gathered all the entire offense together, tried to get them back on the same page. What did you see out there, Nick?
Well, typically after a day off, you, as a coach, you worry about your players coming back being focused, right? Luckily, this wasn't a day where it was a full padded practice. It will be tomorrow. But yeah, they came out of the gate slow, and sometimes you have this happen in the game. So the pro and con to this is like, hey, this could happen to us in the season. How do we bounce back? But the one thing that I love is that they started slow, but they still finished fast.
Yeah, I think what Nick is talking about is right. It's all about how you respond, and since they did respond at the end of practice, and a nice touchdown from Russell Wilson to Cortland Sutton, who had attempted a couple of times to make nice catches down the field. Pat Surtain just refuses to let anybody catch anything. And then you had another touchdown there from Russell Wilson to Jerry Jeudy. I like to see the response because this Broncos team, let's face it, in past years, when they've fallen behind, that's generally been it. There's been a few games where they've come back, but generally, if they fall behind, it's kind of over. I don't think you're going to expect the same thing with Russell Wilson, both from a talent perspective and his leadership. After him and Cortland missed on a couple routes, they stayed down at one end of the field and worked on those routes for about 10 minutes while a special teams period was going on. You love to see that sort of leadership from Russ, and I think it's a good sign moving forward.
And this offense is continuing to work on the timing, trying to get things crisper and crisper as camp goes on here before they get set to hit the field for that Seahawks game. Guys, we always think of Nathaniel Hackett as like this lovable guy who likes to have a lot of fun, brings all this energy out there. But Dalton Reisner said that there's another side to the head coach.
He holds everyone accountable, whether it's coaches, whether it's himself, whether it's players. We get in there every night, and he'll play plays that he's not happy with, whether it's lack of effort or a silly mistake or an MA or being too physical or hitting someone to the ground, whatever it is. He holds guys accountable. He's not afraid to let guys know what they're doing wrong, and I think that's the great balance he has. He's going to bring that energy, be a lovable guy. He's going to be personable, be that player's coach. But at the same time, he can get down and get strict as well, which is important.
So when the offense isn't looking crisp, that means that the defense must be looking good. But they were without K'Wan Williams out there today. Nick, how did you see the team adjust on the defensive side?
Well, they did a great job of adjusting. And this is what I love about this team, because we know it's a long season. Injuries are going to take place, but you still need guys to stand up and rally. We were talking earlier about, well, who's going to step into that nickel position with K'Wan Williams being out? I mean, Michael Jamudi, he was in there. Then here's a guy who I would love to see in that nickel position, Damari Mathis. Young guy, it'll be a great way to teach him more about football, but having those guys compete at that nickel spot, it is going to add that depth that's going to be needed later on in the season, because we know when you looked at teams in this division, there's so many quality wide receivers, and teams go in that 11 personnel and have multiple wide receivers. So this may be a gift, if you will. You don't want anyone injured, but this may be a gift for some of those other guys who are waiting in the wings.
Mathis, a super athletic cornerback out of Pitt, trying to earn his role here on the defensive side. Eric, what did you see from the defense today?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the offense didn't look good, and that was partially because of some pre-snap penalties, but the defense played really well. You saw Josie Jewell kind of diving backwards at one point for a pass breakup. He's been a really great addition to have back in the middle of the defense. Pat Surtain, we've talked about how good he is. The safeties continue to play well. DJ Jones, Draymond Jones, they're getting that push up front. You got Nick Bonito and Baron Browning when they're in there flying off the edge. I mean, there's pieces at every level, and I think we're seeing things click for them pretty fast. And we've mentioned on this show that it takes a while for the offense to get going. So it's not a surprise they're doing that, but the more I watch them, Phil, the more I think this could be a really good unit this year.
And to wrap up the show, we usually like to talk about injuries. KJ Hamler, we talked about returning. Greg Dulcich, the rookie tight end from UCLA, also working his way back out on the field to some individual drills. Nick, how important is it for a guy like Dulcich, a rookie, to actually get some team reps out there?
It's really important, because when you come in as a rookie, you're already behind the 8 ball, because you don't understand the offense. And the way that I understand that this offense can be really complex, and Russell has the ability to change anything up on the field. So you have to make sure that you know the playbook from beginning to end. And sometimes when you're injured, you'll feel as though you are separate from the team in that particular way. And I saw Russell working with a couple of tight ends after practice. If you're Dulcich, even though you're injured, you want to make sure that you are still working with him, because you don't want to make sure, you want to make sure that you don't lose any days, because they're going to install more plays today. So tomorrow is going to be full pads. So you want to make sure that you're on top of things.
Eric, we talked about Dulcich maybe pushing Albert O for that starting role. That seems more unlikely as the days go on here.
Yeah, he's got to be careful that he's on top of everything, make sure he's ready to go. Seems like he's getting closer and closer, doing some walkthrough, maybe team period soon, but you're right, it looks like Albert O's spot to lose right now.
All right, that's going to do it for us here on this day 5 of training camp. Full pads on tomorrow. Today, just the shoulder pads, but those knee pads coming on, and we'll be ready to rock. I expect the guys to bounce back tomorrow. That's going to do it for us. For Aric DiLalla and Nick Ferguson, I'm Phil Milani.